Thank you, Madam President. On a different topic, I rise to speak today on the budget resolution that will soon come before us and the opportunity that it represents to finally provide a pathway to citizenship for millions of our neighbors, friends, and family members. Madam President, I rise today on behalf of the people who are the subject of our immigration debate. The immigrants who have lived and worked in communities throughout the United States for years, sometimes decades, while stuck in a limbo that Congress has created. Our nation depends on the labor of immigrants. There has been bipartisan agreement on this for generations. But while our nation depends on the labor of immigrants, we do not provide the pathways to citizenship that these individuals and their families have earned. Today, we stand on the brink of a historic opportunity to adopt long overdue reforms to our immigration system. I rise to share just a few stories of the people on whom our nation depends and for whom we must act. Madam President, in May, I had the honor of welcoming Rose Tillis to testify before the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration, Citizenship, and Border Safety, a subcommittee which I chaired. Now, Rose was born in Haiti, but fled gang violence and political instability at the age of 17. Alone, in an unfamiliar country, she dreamed of becoming a nurse. But Rose's immigration status kept that dream out of reach. For 10 years, she sustained herself working as a housekeeper and as a babysitter to make ends meet. But Rose's life changed in 2010 when a devastating earthquake in Haiti allowed her to obtain a work permit under a program called Temporary Protected Status, or TPS. Now, she seized this opportunity to return to school and fulfill her dream of becoming a nurse and going on to serve and care for others in nursing homes, in hospitals, in community health centers. Now, while Rose's story is the story of the American dream, her legal status in this country remains all too temporary. Our nation's economy has always depended on the dreams, the dedication, and the contributions of immigrants. No state knows this better than my home state of California, which also represents the 5th largest economy in the world, where nearly a quarter of America's immigrants call home. Immigrants make up 27% of California's population, and yes, they are essential to our success in every industry, from farm workers in the Central Valley, to tech innovators in the Silicon Valley, to construction and domestic workers throughout the state, to nurses and teachers, and more. In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic has made us as a country rely even more on the essential work of immigrants. More than 5 million undocumented workers have held jobs that the federal government deems essential during the pandemic. TPS holders like Rose, who care for our loved ones in hospitals and nursing homes. DACA recipients like Erica Enriquez, a medical assistant who works helping to distribute COVID tests and life-saving vaccines. Farm workers like Vicente Reyes and his parents who show up to work every single day to keep grocery store shelves stocked and for us to be able to put food on our table. As has been the case since the founding of our nation, immigrants are serving at the heart of the American story. An overwhelming bipartisan majority knows that people like Rose, Erica, and Vicente have earned the right to live here without fear of deportation. 70% of Americans support creating a pathway to citizenship for TPS holders, for dreamers, and farm workers. That includes a majority of Democrats and Republicans and independents. Colleagues, right now, we have an opportunity to provide stability and security for the very workforce that the Department of Homeland Security, beginning during the Trump administration, has deemed essential to our nation's economy and security. So as we write a reconciliation bill to create an equitable and sustainable economic recovery, we must include immigration reform. We have strong arguments and precedent from this very body in our corner. The logic is simple. Providing a pathway to citizenship is a direct government action, not some carrot and stick approach involving private businesses and private actors. Newly eligible immigrants would pay fees directly to the U.S. government. And as part of this direct government action, which would then be processed by government employees. Every step of this process involves direct government action and direct government revenues, expenditures, and personnel. And by expanding pathways to citizenship, we will grow our economy and improve the workplace for all. And that's precisely the spirit and the intent of the infrastructure investments that we are developing as part of the budget reconciliation bill. Research by the Center for American Progress shows that providing a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, TPS holders, farm workers, and all essential workers will boost GDP by $1.5 trillion over 10 years. It will raise wages for all American workers. It will create 400,000 new jobs, and it will generate billions of dollars of spending and tax revenue, fueling our economic recovery. Madam President, we have more than just an opportunity. We have an obligation to pass meaningful immigration reform as part of the upcoming reconciliation bill. For Rose, for Erica, for Vicente, for the millions of essential workers and long-term residents who lack permanent status. For the bipartisan majority of Americans who support reform for their immigrant friends, families, and neighbors. And for every one of our constituents, because all Americans will see the economic benefits of immigration reform. Señora Presidente, hoy no solo tenemos una oportunidad, tenemos una obligación de tomar acción e incluir un camino a la ciudadanía para inmigrantes en el proyecto de ley de reconciliación, para los millones de trabajadores esenciales y miembros de nuestras comunidades que aún buscan la residencia permanente, para la mayoría bipartidista de estadounidenses que apoyan estas reformas para sus familias, sus amigos y sus vecinos inmigrantes, y para todas nuestras comunidades, porque todos los estadounidenses verán los beneficios económicos de estas reformas migratorias. Madam President, I recently met with President Biden in the Oval Office to discuss California's immigration needs. And I'm so thankful for President Biden's and Vice President Harris's unequivocal support for including immigration reforms in the budget reconciliation process. As I said, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to bring security to millions of federally recognized essential workers and their families. And I urge my colleagues to join me in recognizing the essential work and economic contributions of immigrants by opening the pathway to citizenship and the American dream. Thank you, Madam President. I now yield the floor.